If your family history is something you have yet to dive into, a new podcast is encouraging you to start. And their reasons as to why are both motivating and inspiring.
Indigenous Oceanians always believed that the past was in front of them and the future was behind them. So today, we don't necessarily think that way. We think the opposite, where the future is in front of us and it's unknown and we're going into it and we leave our past behind us. But that's not necessarily true, because in order for us to get from one place to another, the road has to be paved in front of us.
Oh, I love that. The road has to be paved. Miya, Jensen, and Michelle Thorley are the hosts of LDS Living's Love Your Lineage podcast. They are joining me in studio to help you do just that. Love your history. Ladies, it's so great to meet you. Congratulations on the podcast.
Thank you.
Miya, how did this project come to be?
Yeah, so Michelle and I first met online and we bonded over our commonality with family history, but mostly because we struggled with a lot of the things that we didn't see in the industry, such as talking about things that are really difficult, like generational trauma and shame. And so in talking about it, we found not only these commonalities, but we saw that within a wide group of our own people. And so we felt like this would be a great opportunity for us to help make this more inclusive, mainly the industry. So
I want to elaborate on it just a little bit. Michelle, you told my producer that Love Your Lineage podcast is a multifaceted, friendly, and as you said, Miya, shame-free approach to family history. We don't often use those words in the same sentence. What's the correlation or the connection between shame and history?
Well, I think so many of us, like, there's people who love family history, and then there's a whole group of people who feel completely excluded by it. It feels very exclusionary. And so I think if you look at the root of why people don't do family history, they did a big study and they would think, oh, it's boring or whatever. The root of why people don't engage in family history work is because of shame.
That surprises me. That shocks me, actually. I would think it would be more the time commitment or, like you said, the overwhelm. But it's actually the personal emotion that's keeping people from this work?
But I think it's like the movie Encanto, we don't talk about Bruno. There's so much that we don't talk about in family history. And the only way to address shame, like we've learned from the work of Brene Brown, is to look at it, expose it to light, expose it to community. And so once we can talk about generational trauma, once we can talk about, you know, maybe body image issues or even you know, racial biases throughout our family history. Once we can start putting the light on that and addressing it, that makes the shame go away, and family history goes from being very exclusive to very inclusive.
It's an interesting perspective, and I suppose if you take it even a step further, we know there are great benefits, familial benefits from family history. In order to reap those benefits, I would suppose you have to work through the negative stuff first. Michelle, you once said we are our ancestors in the present form. I want you to elaborate on that. What does that mean, and how could that potentially impact how we view family history going forward?
I think as being living people in the present, like we talk about a term called genealogical consciousness, where you think about past, present, and future.
You guys go deep. I like it.
But we make it fun. We're really serious.
I know. I feel this from you.
Serious.
I feel this from you.
When we're in the present time, that's where we have the most power to impact for good. Sometimes maybe our ancestors made mistakes, and we have the opportunity right now to maybe help heal, help restore.
I would say the responsibility
to
heal and restore. Miya, you once said, and I'm pulling a direct quote here, Indigenous Oceanians always believed that the past was in front of them and the future was behind them. How does that belief change the way maybe we even view ourselves and like our purpose right now in the present?
Yeah, well, for me personally, it's helped me to understand that my ancestors and my family are all there, physically, spiritually, emotionally, in front of me to guide me for the things that I can't see behind me, which is my future. But they can see it, and so listening to them, learning from them, prepared me for all the things I can't see.
Because you referenced Encanto, I'll also pull from the Disney reference vault and say Moana opened up this conversation for my kids. When you see kind of that spirit presence of people behind her on the boat scene, it opened up this amazing conversation with my 7-year-old that still gives me chills to think about to this day. And it's those connections we hope to form through family history. You say, Miya, that family history work has the power to be transformative. In what ways do you feel it can change us for the better?
Oh, it's a good question. I know from my experience, learning about these things in my family like Michelle said, with genealogical consciousness, I have the decisions in front of me to choose whether I'm going to carry on maybe some of these traditions or things that were passed down to me or not. And I have that power right now to be a good ancestor today. So maybe there's some things in my family history that some of my ancestors did that weren't healthy or good and that no longer need to serve us. And so now I can let that go, bring in that healing that my family needs, and pass it down to future generations. And so all of us have that power to transform who we are today because of what we learned from our ancestors.
Well said. And if we apply that transformative power to the present, to today, Michelle, you say it can actually impact our families in the moment, living on Earth now. How so?
Past, present, future. Well, I think, speaking of Disney movies, like I think they found a vein. They found with, Encanto, Coco, Moana, there is this beautiful spirit of connection and healing, and it appeals to everyone when we watch these movies. Or even, what was that show that was like, This Is Us, like talking about past, present, future. And I think so much of our past is living with us today, even though maybe we don't know. And so much of what we are dealing with right now goes on to the future. And so if we can be mindful of that, mindfulness, and be like, what we're doing now, it will affect more people than just me. It's a feeling of community. It's a feeling of authenticity. It's a feeling of groundedness.
Well said. Well said. Your podcast is a great resource for this type of conversation. We have a minute left. I want to pin each of you down. What's one additional resource that you want women to know that might instill this greater drive toward family history or a greater purpose? Is there a book or an additional podcast?
I am a huge Finding Your Roots nerd.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Professor Henry Louis Gates.
Yes.
He's amazing.
Yes.
If you want to watch Finding Your Roots.
All right. Miya, anything hit your mind, hit your heart?
Well, this may be really personal for some people, but going to therapy is a really big one too. Learning how to tackle the things that may be coming up in your life that are a struggle that you recognize now from being an adult, looking as a child. And so using that as a resource can really be beneficial to you and to future generations. So,
well, thank you, ladies, for sharing your passion and your depth toward this topic. And I know you'll continue to do so. What topics are coming up on the podcast that we can look forward to? That's an exciting question.
Dreams.
Yes, dreams.
Generational healing. We have a whole episode.
We'll talk about colorism and the learning, also language diaspora grief too.
And gossip.
And gossip.
Family gossip.
Yeah,
yes.
and how that
Spilling
is
the
family history. Yeah, we have a tea party, like it's awesome.
They cover it all. Where can we listen, Miya?
We can listen on anywhere you find your podcasts, like Apple or Spotify.
All right. Well, Miya, Michelle, thank you so much. It's Love Your Lineage, and we'll link you over from our website for an easy connection point. Nice to meet both of you.
Thank you.